So we're getting ready to pour this 40 by 60 slab here. This is a monolithic pour, which means the footings are in the same pour as the actual slab itself. So we did all the site work in the last video, and we're going to pour a 6-inch slab here. So on a slab like this, you want to design it to be as frost-free as possible. So in other words, you want it to be able to withstand the frost, because the frost is going to be there. It's not below the frost level, but you want the frost to not really affect it too much. So in this case, we use a number 2 stone, and then we use the number 1 stone on top of that just to be able to grade it out better. And the idea behind this clean stone is that the frost can be here and it'll expand in between the cavities in between these stones. So if you were to have something that packed down really good with fines in it, the frost could get between that and the bottom of the concrete and push it up, and that's when you have frost heaving. But in this case, this is pretty much frost free, even though it's not below the frost level. So the reason I chose this foundation instead of one that would go down below the frost level is in this area I have a high water level, a high water table, and we'd be fighting that the whole time we're digging out and pouring for this foundation. And I've done that plenty of times in the past, but for a garage like this, it's not worth it. That works pretty good, doesn't it? Good.
Hard head was good for something.
Around here, you can get away with a monolithic slab, or they can call it an Alaskan slab, and that's perfectly fine. I'm pretty sure you can do that in almost any area, actually, but you can't do it for a residential house, not here anyways. So when we're digging for a foundation for a house, you really have no choice but to go down 4 feet. But in this case, we have the option to do it like this, so I'm going to do it. So the thickness of this footing is 14 inches altogether. And then the thickness of the slab is 6 inches. And by code, there's a few different ways that you could tackle this frost-free option here. One option is the way that we're going to do it, which is going down and over and up and over, and this whole thing's going to have insulation on it. The other option, if you're not going to insulate this whole part here, is to have that insulation still, but then on the bottom you come out with like 4 feet of insulation going out that way. The idea is that it takes the frost a long time to creep in underneath of that insulation, because remember, the heat from the earth is going to hit that insulation and keep it warm underneath of that insulation. So the frost can only creep just so far underneath of that, and then it'll stop, and then it won't go any further. So if I wasn't doing radiant heat in here, I would have done that option. But since I'm doing radiant heat, we're going to go in with the insulation and then up and over. And we're going to use some panels for the radiant heat, which are specially designed to accept the 1/2-inch tubing. And right now I'm at the point where I'm just waiting on those panels to be able to continue on. So I can't really do anything more until I get that. So we still need to do a 16-inch piece of 2-inch insulation in the footings there, but I want the poly, the 6mm plastic, to go underneath of that, and then we'll put that foam on top of that. So that poly is going to go down, over, and up, so that it's basically encapsulating the whole thing here. But I don't want to put that poly down, which it goes underneath the panels, but I don't want to put that down until I have the panels to put the weight on it, because otherwise it'll just be blowing all over the place. So at this point, we really can't do anything more. We're just waiting on those panels. The whole idea behind the way I formed this up with this stone on the outside here is because we have a lot of loose stone around here, so to try to put stakes in, it just doesn't really work. So you end up having to bring the stakes out way over to here where there's like virgin ground to be able to actually bite, and then you have like a 2x4 that goes all the way out to here. The problem with that is the concrete truck can't get very close if you do that. So on the sides here, if you had that piece going way out here, then the concrete trucks are going to be 6 to 8 feet away from the slab, which would make it so we would kind of need a pump truck at that point. And pump trucks are not cheap. It's like $1,100 for them to show up. So in this video, we're gonna do 2 different pours on this slab, because this is too big of a slab for 3 guys to handle. So we're gonna put a screed board going right down the middle, so that we're gonna do a 20-foot swath, 60 feet long, and then we'll do another one. So we'll probably start over on that side, get that all done, take out our screed board, and then a day or 2 later or something, we'll pour the other side here. And right now, the way that this is happening, the trucks can get within 3 feet from the edge here. And they only have a 17-foot chute. So 17 minus 3, that's 14 feet, and we need to go 20 feet. So we're already pushing it 6 feet into the middle there. So we definitely don't want to be any more than that, which is why I chose to do it like this. This is definitely a little bit more work, but it's not that bad. I use number 1 stone so that we can dig up and unscrew everything, and it's really not that hard. Like within a half a day, we could probably get all these forms removed when we're done, and the foam stays there. There's no reason to add the foam later when you can just add it right now. So when I formed for this, I just made sure I was 4 inches longer on all the sides. That way it accommodates for 2 inches of foam on each side. So right now we're gonna go work on something else, and I will continue when I get those panels. line them right up. Come here. Look. Put them right in there. Okay. Here you go. Here you go. Here you go. All right, keep those ones over there in case the wind blows, okay? Look, just put it right here, like this. Right on top of that one. Just like a Lego. Here you go. Here you go. Over here, Noah.
I'll take that out of here.
You got it? See if you can do it. You got it. There you go.
Oh, come on. I can do it.
Here, I'll help you.
No, I can do it.
You can do it? Don't need my help?
No.
Oh. Okay. Here, lift this side up. Right here. Hey, lift this side up.
I did it.
There you go. Look at that. I did it.
Now I did.
The next one?
Yay, I did.
Here, I'll help you. There you go. Noah, you got clothes on today and shoes.
What?
I know, it's crazy, huh? Oh, the tongue is on the wrong side. Here, you gotta flip it around. There you go.
I thought you were talking about his tongue.
Good job. Working on your motor skills.
What? Banana? Sorry.
There you go. There you good. Look, Noah, there's a school bus. See that school bus? Yeah, there'll be rebar here. But it's going to be a grid of 18 inches. So we got these pieces all in. These are 2 foot by 4 foot. So we left a 2 foot perimeter without them. That way we can just put regular 2-inch foam there, and then there'll be like a short, like 10-inch piece there. So it's pretty dark out, but this stuff is really bright. That's the only reason you can see it. And it is snowing out, but we put some rebar around the edges just to hold it from blowing away in the wind, because it's pretty windy right now. So tomorrow we will come back, lay our foam on the footing base and then the angled piece there, and then we can start laying our radiant tubing. Once that's done, we can lay our rebar. But it was fun working with the boys. Caden helped me the last time I did this on my house in the basement. But these panels are made by Creatherm, and they are really nice because not only do they go down quick, but they make it quick for the radiant heat too. Because now you just put the radiant heat tubes in there and it clicks right in, and you don't have to staple it down. So that saves a lot of time. And the price of insulation has gone up so much that it's more worth it to use these now, because these are a little bit more expensive, but you're going to save time and labor on the radiant heat, not having to staple it in. Plus it has like a grid that you can follow too, so you're not like wandering off. You don't have to snap lines or anything or measure anything, you just kind of go with it. But I will show you that either tomorrow or the next day. But definitely, if you guys are looking to do a slab and you want radiant heat, definitely check out these panels, creatherm.com. So we got that salamander here on that coil. That's a 1,000-foot coil of 1/2-inch PEX. It's got an oxygen barrier. So we're gonna run the radiant heat into a utility room that's gonna be right there. I figured it'd be better to put it on an interior wall instead of running it to the outside. So we're gonna run loops of 250 feet each. You can run up to 300 feet a piece, but it's not efficient to do that because then a 1,000-foot coil doesn't divide up easily. You end up using 900 feet and then you got 100 feet left, which you really can't do anything with. So because this is a monolithic slab, the outside 2 feet is not going to have anything right now for radiant heat. So we're going to run all of our loops inside the main slab, and then when we're done, we're going to put rebar in here, and then on top of the rebar in this area, I'm going to run one more loop going around the outside wall, which is 200 feet. So it's a little bit short of a full loop, but that's okay. So for right now, we're going to run radiant heat right to the edge of here, all the way around, and then the last thing we'll do, which is going to be the 9th loop, we'll put in on the outside here. Is that all the way extended right now?
What?
Is the machine all the way extended?
Yeah.
Oh, that reaches most of it, and you're not even all the way up either, so pretty much if you come in from both sides, you get the whole thing. We can do it the other way too, on this side. That makes it nice though, right? Having that forks right there.
Yep.
I never even thought of doing this. Just dawned on me today. Hey, these pieces fit in here pretty nicely. It's like perfect.
Huh.
These pieces are like perfect. So hopefully you guys can hear me with all this wind out here. The wind is kind of crazy. So at this point, what we're trying to do is set our control joint in the middle. So this is a keyway here. So this piece of steel will go down the middle, and you can use it as a screed board, but we're going to use lasers, so we don't really need to do that. But this will separate the two slabs so that you can do two different pours, and it creates a keyway for the two slabs to kind of stay together better. Even though there's going to be rebar every 18 inches on center going both ways, this just also is an extra layer of protection to keep those slabs together. So in order to install this, you set these stakes first. So you drive these stakes into the ground, you run a string line from one side to the other, a 1/4 inch lower than what you want to be, and you set the top of these stakes to that string line, and you do it about every 2 feet. And then once you're all done with that, you just set this thing on top of it, and there's like a little notch in there, and it clicks into the top of this, and it keeps this in place. That way when you pour the slab, this just stays in place and it becomes a control joint, which is nice because it saves 60 feet of cutting a control joint with a saw. But it also separates the slab so that we can do two different pours at once, because this is just too big of a slab to do that all at once with 3 guys. So between that foam and all the loose stone that we have, I wasn't sure how well these stakes would hold, so I got some 24-inch stakes and I got some 12-inch stakes, and I think we're going to have to also add some 2x4s to brace this up pretty good, because it's pretty flimsy and I don't want that control joint to go all over the place and not be straight. So we'll just make it work one way or the other. If you didn't have access to that quick key system, you could use 2x4s or 2x6s and you could create your own keyway, but it's just easier with that because you can just leave it in place and it's just a lot less work, and it's not very expensive. It was like $110 for 6 sections of it, which is, they're 10 feet each, so it's 60 feet. So last night when we were trying to install these, it was just a total nightmare. I don't know why they don't have a better system than this. Maybe they do, I just don't know about it. But those stakes were not clicking into here. Because they got like this little tab here and it's supposed to go in here, and there's like this little lip behind here and it just like clicks in place and it works fine. But when you start beating these stakes into the ground, the top gets all peened over and then it doesn't want to go in here, and if it does, it doesn't want to stay. It doesn't click in place. So while I really wanted to use these because of this design here and you can just keep them in place, we're just going to switch to using a 2x4. It's just going to be so much easier. So we had to take all this rebar and move them to the side so that we could go down through with this. And then once this is in, you take these little squares out and you put the rebar through it. What we're going to do with the 2x4 is, since we're doing a 6-inch slab, we can set it up right on top of the rebar. And the height of this doesn't matter because we're gonna laser screed this off. We're not using it as a screed guide. So this can be sticking way up if it needs to be. It doesn't matter. Because as we're pouring this, we're gonna have a wet pad going down through there, and the height of this doesn't matter at all. With this, the height needs to be exactly correct because this is gonna stay in place. So you don't want this sticking up higher than the floor, and you also don't want it really lower either. And the other thing about the height is, I didn't realize it, but the slab is supposed to be 6 inches to the bottom of this, which means that this is sticking up almost an inch. So these things don't really clear it and they end up sticking up too high. So there's just a lot of things working against us with this, and I really wanted to use it, but we're just gonna do it the old-fashioned way. And then we'll pour the one slab, we'll pull this out, and then we can pour the other slab the next day or something. And then we'll have to make a keyway on this side of the 2x4. So that way when we pour this slab, it'll have a little keyway in it, and then when you take it out and pour the next slab, it'll interlock the two slabs together. I mean, the rebar is going to do the same thing, so I don't think we really even need a keyway, but it calls for it in the plans, so that's what we got to do. So at this point, we can put all this rebar back to where it needs to go, put it on the chairs so it's set where it needs to go, and then we're just going to take 2x4s and lay them down right on top of the rebar. And the only thing we need to get straight is left and right. We don't need to worry about the height of it. So to set this rebar, we use these chairs right here, and they fit perfectly on these little pucks that are sticking up for the radiant heat. It actually fits so good that it's like snug and it won't move. It's perfect. The other thing that's perfect is my plans call for an 18-inch grid of rebar, which these things are on 3-inch centers. So if you put one of these right here, you skip a few and then you put another one right here, and that is 18 inches. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. And these chairs will get the rebar either 1.5 inches off the ground like that, or 2 inches like that. And what you can do is you can actually use it where they crisscross too, because you can put the lower piece on there and the upper piece there, which links them up together, so you actually don't even really have to tie them. But that would take a lot of these chairs to do that, so we didn't do it like that. What I'm doing is every 4 foot on center going down each row, but then they're staggered. So right here and then 4 feet from there, but on the next row of rebar it'll be in between, so that it'll be like that, like it'll zigzag. But I underestimated the amount of chairs that I need, so I had to order more. So for right now, we just have every other row on the 4 foot centers. So what that means is that I can't set the row in between yet because I don't have enough chairs. This could actually sit on top of the bars going this way, but we're not quite at that point yet. So whatever comes first is what we'll do. If I get the chairs first, then we'll set those. But if we run out of things to do, then we can always put the rebar going across, which means we need to take these out and then put them back on once the pieces cross, and then we can cross over top again with these pieces here. But I'll probably just wait for the chairs because I got plenty of other things to do around here. So if you guys are interested in these chairs, they are really good, and I'm not affiliated with them, but I'll leave a link in the description. Even if you weren't using these with this type of system, these are just spread out a lot more, so they disperse the weight and they don't sink into the ground, which is kind of why I bought them. I didn't even realize that they would actually work like this. It just sort of worked out like that unintentionally, but I'm glad I got them because you can't find these locally either. You got to buy them online. So right now we're at the point where we need to tie all this rebar, and this is a lot of rebar to tie by hand. So I got one of these. This is the XRT01, and this should make work a lot easier. So today is a big day. We're gonna pour this side. Concrete truck's gonna be here in a little while. It is currently about 30 degrees with a high of 32. So we're gonna have to use some accelerator, concrete blankets, all that stuff. So to make a keyway on this center joint here, what I did was use a piece of PVC. So that's what that is right there. That way, once we pour it, hopefully later tonight, we'll pull this all out of here. This will pull out pretty easy because it's PVC, and the way it's angled, it'll pull right out of there. You could use a piece of wood, like a 2x2 or something, but you might have a hard time getting it out of there without breaking the concrete up above it. That's why we use this. And this just basically gives a space for the two slabs to interlock together, even though I think it's totally not necessary because we got all this rebar in here. But that's what the plans call for, so that's what we got to do. So I just attached this to here with some finish nails, some 16 gauge finish nails, and so it should pull out pretty easy. I mean, is there even a point in doing anything? Just let him pour it. Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's the beauty of plasticizer.
Huh?
That's the beauty of plasticizer.
Yep.
Need just a little bit more over here.
A little bit on this Farish too.
He's gonna be pretty much empty in a minute here.
Yeah.
Now, Lucas, it's not really going to the top of that. It's going like a, well, no, actually it is going to the top of that, yeah.
Yeah, that was the one that was at the top. The
Yeah.
was a little bit below.
Yeah. Well, I don't need this anymore. Oh.
Definitely made it easy so far. I'll come on forward, but I can't see. Let's go right there. Alright. Trying to make it easy on you. Definitely made it easy so far. Out there somewhere? wet, so. Okay.
So I got this special trowel for doing right next to the garage door, the opening for it. It tapers the opening. You run this edge along the form and it forms up that little taper.
Headband pajama. Ow, my toe.
So this side over here is almost done. Like hit that with the power trowel one more time and it's probably done. But this side over here, we're hours away from being able to finish this. It's really almost not even ready to power trowel yet, which is crazy because that's the first pour. And that's that super soupy mix. It basically self-leveled. But I told him a 7. I think it was more like an 8 or 9 though. But I got the plasticizer in there, so I'm not going to lose a lot of strength. But we're paying for it now. Because now the sun is going to set in about a half an hour, and then it's just going to get drastically colder every minute. I could probably leave this alone and be fine with it over here, but this over here is hours away from being done. Desperate times call for desperate measures. This part is just not setting up. Got the concrete blankets on this side. Still waiting for this to set up over here. So it's been about 2 weeks since we poured that side. I've been trying to get something on the schedule, but between the rain and having a far out schedule for the concrete company, it's not been easy. So I got something scheduled for tomorrow, but we just need to do a few more things before we're ready. The concrete trucks need to be able to make a wide swing around here, so I need to fill in this area. That's why I got this stone. And then they can get back to here. So when they come in, they can make a nice wide swing around and go over there. So the truck should be here any minute now. We got a much earlier pour today, so that should help out a lot. Plus it's supposed to just in general be warmer. So a lot of times the only thing I can get is second run, which is around 10:30 to 11 o'clock. This morning we got first run, so that should be 7:30. It's about 7:30 right now, so maybe 8 o'clock, but that's a lot better than 10:30, 11 o'clock. So we should be able to finish this no problem today. We shouldn't have the same problem that we did over here where we couldn't finish this. Plus I'm going to make sure that we don't pour it like we did over here, because that I think was like an 8 or 9 slump. That's just a little bit too much, because you almost can't level it. It's so much in a liquid state still that when you try to level it, it just flows right back into place. So I think ideally a 7 slump is about the best you can hope for. It's not too runny and it's not too dry. It's perfect. So we're gonna shoot for that. And of course that last one was like a 4 slump, so that was too dry. So we got these trowel marks here, but I'm gonna epoxy this whole floor, so that's not a big deal. But it'd be nice if we didn't have to do any work to that, because I'm gonna rent one of those concrete grinders for here to get those marks out before I epoxy this. But it'd be nice if we didn't have to do that over there. This spot here is going to be my utility room. The wall's going to come out like that, and then there's going to be an LVL that sits right there. That's why there's a footing there, and the LVL is going to go to there. That way I have a whole upstairs here that I can put 2x12s going like this. But the utility room is going to come out to about here. So this whole area right here, I'm almost thinking that maybe we should just pour this a little bit low, because it's going to be hard to get in and around all this stuff that I got here between that and that. So we'll just pour it a little bit low, and then that way once everything is set up, I get the walls framed in here, I can just put a little self leveler in here and it'll just creep in and around everything and it'll make it perfect. But for right now there's no point in trying to trowel it out nice, because there's just so many obstacles in the way. So we're in really good shape here. It's not even 1 o'clock yet, and this is already twice as good as the other slab over there. I'm gonna hit it with the power trowel once more. I'm just waiting for that to set up just a little bit more. In probably about 15 minutes, I'll hit this again, and it'll be done for good. And that leaves plenty of daylight to let it set up a little bit more before I put the concrete blankets on. That way the concrete blankets don't mar it up. They kind of did on that other side just because it wasn't set up enough, but we really had no choice. But on this side, we won't have to do any work to this. We could epoxy right over this. The other side, we'll spend a half a day grinding it down, spots here and there. But this one doesn't need anything. Even if I left it just the way it is right now, it wouldn't need anything. But in a little while, it'll be perfect. And we got plenty of sunlight, and it's warmer out today. Everything's working out good. I know I learned my lesson though. I'll never do anything other than first run for any flat work ever again. Because it seems like almost every time I do any kind of flat work, I always get second run or even third run. And when it gets this cold, that just doesn't work. So from now on, first run or no run. When you're pouring walls, it's no problem to do second run, or if the weather is better. If you have more daylight and you have higher temperatures, you could get away with second run, but when it gets this cold, first run only. Sometimes that might mean waiting a couple extra days, but I learned my lesson, it's worth it. I know I didn't get this on camera, but we did cut some control joints down here. So the engineer called for every 20 feet. So 20 feet, 20 feet, just gets one control line. And then one right there. So on this whole slab, there's only 2 control joints, plus the one going down the middle here. So on the other side, it'll be the same thing. This control joint will continue on down that way. This control joint will continue on down that way. And I just cut that in there with a circular saw with a diamond blade on it. And each one of these cuts only took about, I don't know, less than 10 minutes. So normally you'd want every 10 feet or so, but this is what the plans called for. So I was going to do every 10 feet, but I also figured if I'm going to epoxy this, I'll let it cure for a while. And if it gets any cracks, I'll fill them all in before I epoxy it. So it's very possible I could get some more cracks in here, but I'm not going to epoxy this for a while, so I'll definitely let it set up before I do that. So it should give it long enough to crack before I do the epoxy. Normally though, if it's going to crack, it's going to be within the first 2 days. So it's been 2 weeks and there's no cracks. It's not even cracked on the control joint. So when you're pouring a thicker slab like this, 6 inches, you can get away with bigger spans on the control joints. Plus, I got the 18-inch grit of rebar. I think that definitely helps too. There's a little bit of a lip where these 2 slabs meet up, but that's because when we were troweling this out on the other side, just that last little inch got fluted up just a little bit. That's why you can see that shadow right there. So if I was to do that again, I would probably use the edger on that joint. That way it leaves a nice big V groove in there, and then that wouldn't happen. But this is probably 10 minutes worth of grinding with just a 4-inch grinder, and it'll level that all right out. It's just that last little bit, so it'll take nothing to grind that away. That's it. Last pass on there. It's looking really good. That's better than I need it for a garage floor. That's good enough for a basement, which should, in theory, be a little bit better than a garage floor. So we just got to touch up the edges a little bit and then 100% done. So at this point, what we're going to do is let this set up until probably dark, and then we'll throw the concrete blankets on it, and then tomorrow we'll come back, take them off, and cut the control joints. But I don't really see a point in continuing this video. It's already getting pretty long, so I guess this will be it for here, and this will be it for this garage for a little while, probably because I need to get materials together and everything to start building it. But I got a bunch of other work I got to do, so that's not first priority right now. First priority was really getting this done so that it could sit for a while, and then I can start building on it in a few weeks, maybe, probably more like a month at least. But I'm glad that it's done. It's a big burden off my shoulders. Now I can go take care of a few other things that are holding me down, but nothing as big as this. This is definitely a big relief. Just so you guys know, I had a few people in the comments that told me that the system that I used to form up this slab was way overcomplicated, and I made it way more work than it needed to be, and it would take us a lot of work to get those forms off. Well, I'm here to tell you that we got that side and this side off in about an hour. So I don't know how much quicker you could really be if you didn't fill in with the stone, but however much quicker you could be, I'm sure it's not worth it, because this worked really good. The truck was able to get right up to it. This was all loose stone, so it was really hard to get stakes in it. So I don't know how much better it could have performed than that. Also, forming these slabs up with the styrofoam here is the only way to do that, because now that foam is almost bonded to it. It's actually quite an ordeal to try to peel that foam away. It's stuck in there, which is what you want. You don't want to put foam on there later and have all kinds of dips and ins and outs on the concrete because you formed it up with boards and there was like gaps in between the boards, and then you can't get the foam tight against it. It's much better just to do this, because if you end up with a bunch of air gaps all over the place on that foam, not only will it not perform that well, but you'll also be dealing with bugs and stuff getting into there. So I wouldn't recommend doing the radiant heat like that, because I didn't put any test manifolds on there, which you should always do. But in this case, the radiant heat is below the rebar. There's really no way that you can nick it. We're not going in there with tools and trying to pull up the wire mesh, and we're not going in there with a buggy and driving over things. So it's almost impossible to damage that PEX. But I still wouldn't recommend doing it like that. I'm doing it like that because I just don't care that much about it in this case. It's not exactly the cleanest thing over here, but like I said, in this utility room, we're going to use some self-leveler. If I even bother with that, I'm not really concerned. It's a utility room. So I got some loops here. This is going to be for geothermal loops going in and out. So probably 2 1-inch loops in each one. And maybe I'll keep this one just in case I want to do like an outdoor wood boiler. I'm kind of thinking though, if I want to do a wood boiler, I would almost prefer to have an indoor wood boiler, so I might not even need that, but it's good to have it anyways, because this is 14 inches thick and there's radiant heat in there, so I don't want to have to try to drill through that later. And this is for septic pipe, and then this right here is for water, and the electric will come in on the side through an LB. Actually, it'll be on that side. You guys saw me run that conduit. That'll just come up with an LB and come in there. And same thing with the communications wire. I'll probably run some Cat 6 right alongside of that. So I'm gonna get cleaned up here, and then it's just a waiting game till the end of the day. But in the meantime, I will see you guys on the next video.